The state has concluded its case in the Oscar Pistorius trial. That means that Harry Nell has called all the witnesses he wants to call. But what exactly does this mean? What is the state's case against Oscar Pistorius? Let's have a look at some of the main points of the state's case. The first thing the state is trying to prove is that Oscar and Reva were having a fight on the morning of the 14th of February. He tried to prove this by bringing neighbors to the stand to say that they heard fighting before they heard those gunshots. The testimony of the neighbors is quite vital because what it proves is that there was some grievance in the relationship between Oscar and Reva. Now, the neighbors that were called to the stand were neighbors in Oscar Pistorius' Silverwoods estate, and the reason their testimony is credible is because they have no reason to lie. They didn't know Oscar Pistorius, they're all professionals, and they simply stated what they heard on the night. The state wants to prove that there was fighting happening. As one of the witnesses said, she heard blood-curdling screams coming from the house. That is what the state wants to prove. Another huge part of the state's case is Oscar Pistorius' relationship with guns. Now, that's why Harry Nell brought up incidents in Tash's restaurant in Johannesburg where he fired a gun in the restaurant, and when he was driving back from the Vaal, he fired a firearm through the sunroof. Harry Nell wants to prove that Oscar Pistorius has a relationship with guns that isn't good, that he's gun happy and that he lives a life where he doesn't really respect guns. Harry Nell wants to prove that Oscar Pistorius wouldn't have thought twice before shooting through a bathroom door. Now here's where the state and the defense really disagree with each other. It's the issue of Oscar Pistorius' stumps. The state is proving that Oscar Pistorius was on his stumps when he shot through the door and also on his stumps when he bashed through the door with the cricket bat. In fact, the state used an expert, Colonel Vermeulen, to prove that the forensic evidence indicates that Oscar Pistorius was on his stumps both when he shot through the door and when he bashed through the door on a cricket bat. Now, if you cast your mind back to Oscar Pistorius' bail hearing, you'll remember his affidavit states that he put on his prosthetics after the shooting and went to the door and on his prosthetics bashed down the door with the cricket bat. The defense are sticking to Oscar Pistorius' version, and this is where the state and the defense really argue about the forensic evidence. Captain Chris Mangena of the SAPS also bolstered the state's case against Oscar Pistorius by saying that there were 4 deliberate shots through the door. The state are saying that Oscar Pistorius shot those 4 bullets through the door deliberately and that he meant every shot. Now, what the defense are saying is that Oscar Pistorius shot 2 sets of double tap shots. What that means is instead of firing 1, 2, 3, 4, Oscar Pistorius fired 2 shots in quick succession and then another 2 shots in quick succession. Now, the ballistics experts disagree completely. They say that if this were to happen, Reva Steenkamp's body would have had a different set of bullet wounds, that Oscar Pistorius did fire 4 deliberate shots. The state also focused heavily on Oscar Pistorius and Reva Steenkamp's relationship, using WhatsApp messages to prove that Reva Steenkamp was at times afraid of Oscar Pistorius. The state went so far as to show Oscar Pistorius' browser history, showing that he was browsing porn sites. Now, Harry Nell didn't elaborate on this, but the idea that we get is that he's trying to prove Oscar and Reva weren't in a loving relationship and that perhaps Oscar was dissatisfied or looking elsewhere. Another powerful piece of the state's argument is the fact that very little crime happens in Oscar Pistorius' area. In fact, from 2011 to 2013, only 8 incidents were reported in the area, and only 1 of those was a burglary, and only 1 was a shooting. And that one shooting was Oscar shooting Reva. The state want to prove that Oscar Pistorius had no reason to believe a violent intruder was in the house. In fact, the state want to show that Oscar Pistorius acted completely outside the realms of what a reasonable South African gun owner would do. So those are the state's main points. Let's recap them. The state want to prove that Oscar and Reva were fighting on the morning of the 14th of February. The state want to prove that Oscar Pistorius is irresponsible with guns. The state want to prove that Oscar Pistorius was on his stumps when he shot and bashed through the bathroom door. The state want to prove that there were 4 deliberate shots made through the bathroom door and that Oscar and Reva were not in a happy, loving relationship. And finally, the state want to prove that Oscar Pistorius' living conditions were safe and secure, that Oscar had no reason to shoot through that bathroom door. We're interested to see what Barry Rue and the defense team have to say. Of course, they're going to be bringing their case before the courtroom when court resumes again on Friday. That's tomorrow.